Hello guys, welcome to another Dynamics tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be making this type of sparks effect using Maya and particles, and it's mostly procedural. um, I will use M particles collision event editor to um, determine when to emit the particles. And yeah, let's get started by making a new scene. First thing I'm gonna do is to make a ground plane, obviously, and whatever object that I'm gonna use for the collision. So I'm just gonna make a quick gear shaped geometry using the extrusion tool. You can simply keep faces together to disabled, and you can add some offset and thickness to make this type of gear shape. And here we go. And next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the workspace to FX, and if we go to M particles, you're gonna see emit from object. And if you actually emit from object, this is what you're gonna see. And I don't really need that much particles, so let me reduce the emission rate by going to the emitter, and you're gonna see rate. So you can just reduce it, something like that, and now you're gonna see less particles. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the M particle first and the geometry that we're emitting from, and now we can add goal. And if we do that, it's gonna try to move to the every vertices of my geometry, and there's something we need to change in the particles setting. If we actually go to goal option in M particle shape node, and you're gonna see goal smoothness and this one right here. And what we need to do is to reduce goal smoothness all the way down to 0, and you can increase goal weight all the way up to 1. And now you can see it's sticking to the vertices of our geometry. So now that's perfect for us, and now I'm gonna run the animation for maybe a couple of frames to generate these particles. And now we can select the particle object, and if we go to fields and solvers, and you're gonna see initial state, and you can select Zephyr selected, and make sure you selected on particles before you do this. And now after you've done that, you can go back to emitter, and you can remove the rate of this emitter, or even you can delete it. We don't need it anymore since we got this as an initial state. We don't really need to emit any more particles. We got what we need already. So let's say get rid of the emitter, and now it's time to animate the gear, and it's actually quite simple. You can press Shift and E to key the rotation, and you can go to frame 5, for example, and rotate it a little bit, and press Shift E again, and it kiss the rotation again. And now what you can do is, if you go to animation editors and graph editor, you can see this graph, and actually we don't need rotation X and Z. So what you can do is you can select the object, and you can go to edit and delete by type and static channels. So now that's all gone. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this linear first, and go to the view and select infinity. Now we see how it goes. you can go to curves and post infinity, and you can select cycle with offset. Now it rotates perpetually without having to key them again. So now we actually have the rotating gear. And if you want to make it faster, you can actually just make the graph more steep, and now it's rotating a lot faster than before. And I actually want to make it even faster, so let's just bring it down, something like that. And yeah, actually a lot faster than that, something like that. And now that's gonna work. And I actually want to rotate the translation of this object as well, so I'm gonna group this object and center the pivot, and now we can press Shift and W to key the translation of this object. And I'm just gonna move few frames and bring it down and make sure it overlaps with the ground a little bit, and I can press Shift and W again, and I'm gonna jump back to a few frames again and press Shift W again so it stays here for a while. And we can again go to the graph editor, and I can just select this value and Control C to copy this value and go to frame 20 something and Control V to paste this value. And now again I'm gonna use post infinity to cycle this, but this time it's without offset, so it will repeat this motion over and over again. That's cool. And actually I think it should be a lot faster. So again, go to the graph editor, okay, and make it a lot faster. Sometimes it doesn't work. Alright, that's gonna be enough. If you want to slow down the animation, you can again go to the graph editor and select those graphs and press R for the scale tool, and you can press Shift and middle mouse drag to actually scale it, and hit W again to translate it. There we go. Now it should move a lot slower. And now we're gonna use the collision event for the actual emission of the sparks. So in order to do that, we should have a collider on the ground plane we created when we first got started. And you can go to Enclose and create passive collider. This is a universal Maya and rigid collider, so you can always go to Enclose for the passive collider. And it is now colliding with the plane, as you can see here. And before we actually add the collision event, if you select the M particle again, and if you go to collisions, you're gonna see collide with scale, and you can actually turn on the solver display, and if you turn on collision thickness, it's much bigger than the actual particle size. So I actually want to reduce the collide with scale so it's not gonna go crazy. After that, now we're ready to create a collision event. So you can go to M particles and particle collision event editor, and you can select M particle from the object session and select type to emit, and there are a number of particles and spread, and probably you want to spread a little more than that. And number of particles, probably one is now enough because it's colliding constantly. So if you add too much, it's gonna crash your software. So be careful with that. And inherent velocity is quite important for the movement of the particles that will be emitted. And if you're done, you can create event. Make sure you don't enable original particle dice or random number of particles or anything like that. And yeah, let's create event and let's see how it goes. And before you do this, I strongly recommend saving the scene because it sometimes goes wrong. So let's run the animation, and this is what you're gonna see. And it's going crazy because it has the same problem with the collision width scale. So if you turn on the collision thickness display, you're gonna see it's much bigger than the actual particle. So we can just scale it down like that, and now you're gonna see different effect, something like that. And probably it's going too far. Still have some overlapping problems probably. Or maybe it's overlapping too deep. So what we can do is lower this plane a little bit. If we actually turn on the thickness display in the plane, ground plane, you can see how deep it's going. And there we go. Another possible problem is the inherent velocity. So I can select particles and go to event editor again. Not just event editor, but collision event editor. And if you select the event that we created, and you can actually try to reduce inherent velocity, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so increase a little bit. Alright, now after you've done that, you can actually turn off the collision thickness, and if you go to the shading session, you can actually decrease opacity so you won't see the original particles that we are emitting from. So that's cool. And if we select the actual sparks particles, you can actually change the particle render type to multi-streak, for example, and it's gonna look much more like sparks. And if you just stop the animation at a certain frame, and you can actually deal with the counts and tail size, probably not that big, this big maybe. And you can also deal with the width of the line, and most importantly the color, probably some orange. And one more thing is to set the lifespan of these particles. So I'm just gonna use random range with lifespan random of 0.8. I just want to be quite randomized. So yeah, it's looking pretty great. Unfortunately, if you try to render this out in Arnold renderer, you will not see any multi-streaks or that kind of streak effect. You will only see just regular particles. So that's a bit disappointing, but you can use motion blur to create that kind of streak effect. And yeah, you can actually increase number of particles. Let's say probably 3 will be enough. So if you actually do that, you're gonna see more particles, something like that. So that's one way to go. And that's pretty much it for this tutorial. And thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more upcoming tutorials like this one. Thank you.